Well, welcome everybody to another Liquibase Community Meetup. And to kick things off, we're going to have a poll. What we want to know is how long you have been using Liquibase. Less than 6 months, 6 months to a year, 1 to 3 years, over 3 years. Or I don't currently use Liquibase because I enjoy not spending time with my family.
Yeah.
And there we go. Okay, so we've got, there we go. We've got some new users. We've got some experienced users. All right. Well, here we go. I do like not saying I do not currently use Liquibase. I like that. And so we've got, you know, here are the folks that are joining us. Nathan Voxlin, Benevolent Dictator for Life for Liquibase. Hi, Nathan.
Hello.
Kevin Chappell.
Good morning, everybody.
Now, folks, that is 2 underscores in Kevin Chappell's Twitter handle.
Yes, if you only do 1 underscore, you'll find a really good pro golfer.
Not your secret identity.
It's a win either way. We've got Ronak, our dev community manager. Hi, Ronak.
Hi.
Caroline Hunt, who is our user community manager. Hi, Caroline.
Howdy, how's it going?
Just fine. I'm Robert. And Mario, our product manager. Hello, Mario.
Oh,
So folks, let's go through our agenda here. We've got a product update. We've got a update on what's going on in the community and a very, very special guest, Sylvia Botros from Twilio. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, everybody.
Sylvia's going to set us straight, tell us how the cow ate the cabbage and how not to dork up your database. Then we're going to have some open Q&A. So folks, let's get those questions in early so that whether it's with Liquibase usage, convincing the team to adopt it, whatever, annoyances, grievances, we'll take it all. You can go ahead and use the Q&A widget in your little Zoom app up at the top and put those in. But first, Mario, you are up, my friend.
all right. Well, I'm excited to talk about Liquibase Hub. For those who may not be following along, we're about to release into an early beta. There's a link at the bottom where you can get invite for early access to the beta. So for those who use Liquibase, you know, it is a CLI app or run through Maven or Spring Boot or whatever. It does not have an ability to generate reports on its own or to see how it's being used across your various teams, or even if your team is 2 or 3 people, it's always nice to know who's doing what. So we've been talking to people for a long time about what do they wish they could get out of Liquibase. And it turns out way up at the top of the list is people wish they could get some monitoring and status, which is to say they want to know which changes have been deployed to what environment, you know, what's in dev, what's in test, what's in UAT or prod, where things fall, how long things take to move across, when things fail, how long it takes to get them back in order. And this is super valuable if you have more than one person working on your product, which is maybe not everybody, but it is a lot of people. Knowing where people are in that process is just really, really useful. We've learned from a lot of people. The biggest thing that comes in new here is a whole new concept, which we basically pinched from GitHub straight out. Organizations and projects. You can think of projects as repos. So you will be able to, in this new hub, have an organization, which means you can have lots of different people in your organization and they can have teams, which we call projects. And you have projects which you can assign people to, which is really a team. So a project is just an easy way to collect all the things that you use with your Liquibase, your connections, all your JDBC URL strings, like all of your environments, the change logs. You'll be able to drill into a change log to see its change sets. You'll be able to see which change sets have been deployed to which environment. And the project really will be just a convenient new holder for all of those elements. So if you're a dev and you're working on an app, then you're in the consumer section or the user section. There's another team that's working on the catalog section. Maybe there's another team working on localization section. You'll be able to split those up however you decide, but then the DevOps person or the release manager, whoever wants to, will be able to go in and see where things are. This is really handy. You can't do that in Liquibase right now. So that's a super exciting concept for us. We've been showing it to some people. It's in an alpha now. It's exciting for them. I would very much encourage you, if you work in a team bigger than 2 people, to head over to liquibase.com/hub and sign up for the early access. Caroline, maybe Ronak, one of those people will get in touch with you immediately, see where you fall into the categories of users, and we will be in touch. We interview those people and we will give them early access. So that can be you.
But Mario, this sounds like a real pain. I mean, I spent a lot of time setting up Liquibase. I mean, I got it working. I mean, what kind of strange, weird stuff do I have to do to my existing Liquibase install to start using Hub?
Well, that's an excellent question, Robert. You have to do one thing, which is, well, 2 things. You have to sign up. So we can give you an API key. Then you got to take that API key and put it in your properties, or put it in your Java ops, or put it in your runtime argument. So all you need is API key.
Hold the phone. So you're saying I add 1 key value pair to my properties file and it just works?
And it just works.
Oh, man.
I'll give there's one little caveat. You got to be on Liquibase 4.0. So if you haven't upgraded to 4.0, you will have to do that. But yeah, that's it. And it is free, which is, it says there right at the top, it is free, and it will remain free if you decide to use it at scale.
I don't believe it. Free and easy? No way. No way.
And it's a floor wax. Also a dessert topping.
Cool, man. Oh, man. Thank you. That's perfect. Guys, I messed around with it. It was last Friday, right? Or the Friday before? Last Friday?
Yeah.
Time has no meaning right now. And no, stuff was dope. No, seriously, I blocked out like 2 hours to mess around with it. 10 minutes. Okay, I'm done.
I will say it is pretty cool. You put the key in, you run the Liquibase update, you go back to your Hub account, you can see your change sets. You can see what you did. You can see where it went. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is cool. Try it out. So Nathan, you're up, buddy.
All right, talking a little bit about, we released Liquibase 4.0 a couple weeks ago. Like Mario said, time has no meaning anymore. So sometime fairly recently. So one of the kind of major changes, as we were kind of talking about leading into it, was some of the changes to the file paths. So just wanting to talk just a couple minutes about these changes. Sort of first, why do we make these changes? The kind of main thing we ended up doing was we're trying to kind of clean up a lot of the ways that change logs end up being able to be referenced, and kind of both from a sort of technical side and also from an end usability side. And one of the changes we ended up doing was we took out the ability to, by default, look up files by reference or by an absolute file path. That ended up getting added in on a earlier version of Liquibase because it's something that people will oftentimes try to do. They want to say, I want this is exactly where my changelog file's at. Let's just run it. And so it seemed at the time like, oh yeah, that's an easy thing to add in. Let's just do that. The problem is that it works right away when you first start using it, but over time you start running into more and more problems because you want to, your database is a shared separate thing, and you want to be able to run Liquibase from a different machine. And Liquibase, with that absolute path, is going to see it as a different changelog file. And so you start hitting problems later on. And so we're trying to kind of keep people from hitting those problems later on by removing that kind of ability to specify an absolute path. If you do need to do that for some reason, you still can make Liquibase do that in your class path setting. That's where you specify, these are the locations to start looking from, kind of what your file, your changelog files are going to be relative to. And you can always put, slash, your root file system as a place to look for, and then, it's going to be looking for that absolute path. So you can still get it to do that. This doesn't work by default. Along with the larger changes to kind of how that file path or files are looked up. If you are running into any other issues, definitely let us know. I know that there's been a couple issues with Spring Boot usage, especially if you're kind of getting down into some of the nested, like a change log inside of a jar, inside of your kind of main fat jar. So we're looking at that. But any other ways that you're running into issues, let us know. There's all sorts of ways Liquibase gets used in all sorts of fun and interesting environments. And so, we changed a lot of stuff around how the handling goes. And if you're running into problems, let us know. And we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, just yell at Nathan on Twitter.
Yep.
There you
Always
go.
listening.
It's easy.
Yep.
It's just right there.
Right there.
Okay, thanks, man. So now, speaking of things that don't have meaning, like time, community, lots of meaning. So Ronak, I think
Hey,
you're up.
folks. Thank you. I just want to make, I heard you guys carnival barking about about Hub, which I'm also excited about. And when Mario said, for if you're in a team with 2 or more, and the movie that's playing in my mind is the guy eating alone puts food to his mouth. It's like, oh, I can't use Hub. All right. Anyways, so Liquibase University, everybody loves it. I love it. And so there's going to be more of it. The brilliant Kat McCormick, who brought us the LMS, is adding 2 more classes. It's Liquibase commands, which, all the commands and more detailed, the arguments and stuff, because, for some reason people want that. And then Liquibase usage patterns, which is pretty cool. It's a cool tool, but like, how do I use it? And if you have any questions on that, feel free to contact us. I posted a bunch of links in the chat room, and you can mention Kat in any of those, in most of those, except for Twitter, I think, properties. So give her a shout, tell her what you think. All right, and I'd like to do a community spotlight.
Wait, before you go on, Ronak, one quick question.
Sure.
Who is the current Liquibase LMS aimed at?
Oh, so that's just like your base. That'll be the prerequisite for all the classes that are coming out. And we'll have multiple paths of learning. So you can become like an expert, or maybe you want a different track. I forgot all the tracks, but there's like 3 tracks. But the fundamentals that's already available is the start for all of them.
I got certified. Put it on LinkedIn. I got a solid B-.
Yeah. I always tell my kids, anything past passing, it's like, now you're just showing off.
It's all gravy. It's all gravy.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, I'm happy to talk about Matthias. I believe Matthias has joined us. So hello, hi Matthias. I just wanted to, Matthias is from Stockholm. We got the pleasure, Caroline and I got the pleasure to hang out with him and see his wonderful life. And he has a very respectable beard right now. You can't tell from this picture. Anyhow, Matthias got his certification, and then just immediately jumped on Discord and started helping other users, because he's a self-professed tech geek, and he loves the Oracle space, and he loves helping and kind of believes in paying that forward. And so he's been very active on Discord. Give him a hi and give him a shout. He's super friendly, and he can definitely help you using Liquibase. Thank you, Matthias. And now I will turn it over to more interesting people, Caroline, and we'll get to also see Sylvia. All right.
Yes, hello. So as always, we love to give shout outs in the community. Thanks again, Matthias, for all your help in Discord. another person who is on here as well as Isaiah, and we've gotten to know him pretty well over the last couple of months. And I actually first came across Isaiah from his YouTube channel. I was kind of just poking around and looking at some Liquibase videos, specifically kind of around just getting started using Liquibase. And I found his video and I said, oh my gosh, this is really great. And he's gotten tons of comments and likes and views on his video in particular. And so I said, okay, we got to meet this guy. And so luckily he was willing to take a Zoom call with Ronak, Mike, and myself. And we got to just know him a little bit better. But Isaiah actually started using Liquibase only about a year ago. So relatively more of a newer user, but still has a great level of experience. The company that he was working for at the time, they were using Liquibase. And so he had the ability to kind of jump into the team and learn a lot from them. And he mentioned that he just happened to fall in love with using it. So we kind of wanted to know a little bit more about, why are you making videos? Like, what prompted you to do that? And he said that when he was learning to use Liquibase, the documentation was helpful, but really it was his peers at work that were the most helpful. And he felt like when you go on Stack Overflow, a lot of people were asking very pointed questions. And so he wanted something a little bit more basic. So he said, well, why not create it myself? And so he got on YouTube, and he actually is making some other technical videos as well beyond just Liquibase. But if you have a moment, check it out. Check out his channel. It's really great. The other thing too that he's kind of touched on as far as using Liquibase is the importance of having kind of agreement and alignment within your team. When you have that, it works really flawlessly. And so that's kind of something important to think about, on our end of things when we're trying to think of how the users are using Liquibase and how teams are using Liquibase, right? I know they brought up Hub, so that's kind of a good play on that. But ultimately, we're just grateful to have people like Isaiah that are out there in the community and contributing. If you have a chance, like I said, check out his videos. They're super helpful. And we're excited to work with them in the future on more things. So hello, Isaiah. I wish you were here in person with us, but we'll catch you next time on Discord.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and chat with our special guest, Sylvia Botros. So folks, if you don't know Sylvia, if you don't follow her on Twitter, DB Smasher, you really need to. Sylvia is beyond gifted and skilled DBA, software architect, software engineer. She spent a large amount of time at SendGrid, which was acquired for $2 billion by Twilio. All right. And folks, if you think that Twilio bought that company for $2 billion because of revenue and customer growth and those sorts of things, you are a chucklehead. They bought it for the data. And who was in charge of that data, Sylvia? Who was in charge of that?
I'm not in charge of anything. I just break stuff, man.
Well, I think that every single SendGrid investor and stockholder owes you a debt of gratitude because, it's, a unicorn in the tech world. That's 1 billion. So I guess SendGrid was a binacorn or is it just a unicorn with a really big horn?
Really? Yeah.
So, look, Sylvia's done a lot with databases. And so I beyond grateful for you joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
What does it look like from your perspective, that kind of day in the life when it comes to database updates? Software is getting rolled out. We got to change the database. What do we need to do?
I think a big important shift at this point in the field needs to be like you and you and I have chatted about this like even a while ago. You got to start treating the database changes as part of the software delivery process, which is where Liquibase, Datical, and tools like this are super important because it's like, I know like you may look at the website and we all like to do this when we look at like websites for tools for developers and you feel like it's a lot of buzzwords, but it's actually true and it's based on science. Like there's solid signs out there where the developer happiness, developer productivity, you need to include the database as part of it. It's scary, it's difficult, but it has to happen because ultimately you don't want to leave the hard part to the end and then nobody wants to move because you still have this one bottleneck that's pausing all of your feature releases or important changes and things like that.
Well, I mean, you know, if we're slowing up releases, I mean, how does those changes, how does that impact team performance? I mean, if we're really trying to speed things up, is it really that big of a difference? Does it really matter?
Well, before you even look at team performance, whether it matters, I think one important shift, which has started a few years ago, and I'm happy to see it grow, you start moving away from gatekeeping, from hiring one person or even a couple of people, call them DBAs, and they are the only people who can do database changes. It is hard to tell teams that they control their own destiny when it comes to performance and when it comes to meeting their deadlines when they've done all the code, but the state is important and they can't touch it. So that's not good. If anybody on who's listening has not read Dr. Fortran's work on developer on business performance as part of like how engineers do work, I believe it was the Dora report a couple of years ago when she started tackling database management as part of that process. And it was clear, like, it is very hard to become an elite performer or have the DevOps transformation, as they call it. And you still have like one or two people who are the only ones who can do the database change, and they have to go in manually and do it, and then like have someone just like sit there next to them and shadow them. So once, I mean, that still happens, unfortunately.
Oh, come on, move my ticket up. Come on, be cool.
That has absolutely happened. So, you move your database team away from being the gatekeeper and become an enabler and, provide tools with solid guardrails to the future teams. That's the first step. Then the team happiness, performance, meeting deadlines is just, that cascades out of that.
Yeah, it's, it's just gotta really suck to do that job, to be the gatekeeper. It feels great to be loved and wanted, but at some point, don't you want to go have a life? Don't you want to go,
So the sinister part there is a lot of DBAs come from operations, and operations historically has had a bit of a hero thing going on, where it's like they come in and fix the stuff. So that is unfortunate, but I mean, we're all starting to talk more about this and like how much it causes burnout, how much it's ultimately not really a good thing if you're like if this one human is a single point of failure for the business.
So it's like we got like some degree of Munchausen syndrome. Is that what's happening?
I'm gonna decline trying to diagnose things. I'm not a doctor, but it's definitely not. There's been trends in the past that were not healthy, and we have all come to realize that it ultimately is not good for everybody to just have like this dependency within the org.
We used to think smoking was great. Asbestos, bloodletting. These were great things back in the day.
Yeah, so it's important for us to recognize that concern and to basically, as a leadership in a company, like decide, okay, we want this to become part of our software delivery process. It needs to be not a special case, and it starts from there, making it part of which is why like tools like Liquibase and Datical, like it's important for them to become part of the software delivery. So you can send signals and you can tell from the side that deploys the artifact the database thing has finished, things like that.
Mm-hmm. No, look, you're spot on. So if we want, one of my favorite lines, William Gibson, I think it was Gibson. It was the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So we have in this same company, we'll have teams pushing the envelope with Kubernetes, microservices, all doing all sorts of great stuff, streaming data. Yeah. And then we got other folks not quite there, maybe a little kind of 90s-ish, listen to some new metal, stuff like that. So what do we need to do? I mean, you're an architect at Twilio, all right? So you're seeing all the pieces fit together. What do you want to see from, your dev, test, management folks to help that change happen, to enforce those learnings from Dr. Forsgren?
So when I had to deal with that, it was actually pre-acquisition. So I'm going to stick to that because in Twilio it's different. Part of it is the fact that Twilio has separate BUs. And so operationally things could be different. SendGrid was simpler. We had one major product, and I was personally that gate for a while. When I was hired, I was the first in-house DBA, and I did spend a few years at that job, basically being that human single point of failure. All the database changes came through me. It was literally, like you just said, tickets in Jira, and I had to do them. Like that was the reality. It was the realization of one, we're hiring more engineers every year. We're growing. So the ratio just doesn't make sense anymore. And two, I mean, at some point, I wanted to do more complex stuff. I wanted to grow in my career, and it becomes a hamper on me actually moving forward in my career, having to do the one thing all the time. I don't believe there was like a specific conversation where I had to show them the door report or anything. It didn't. That's for the movie version, I guess. But that was a conversation for a while, and we came to the conclusion that no, like this needs to be a thing that's automated. It needs to not have a person be in charge of it. We need to provide the ability for people to ask for help if necessary. Ultimately, there will always be some portion of our database infrastructure that's slightly more scary than another, and people want the second pair of eyes. But that needs to be the outlier, not the norm. So that was how that started. I'm happy to say that at this point, the database schema changes in the SendGrid BU specifically are fully automated unless someone needs help. Like they actually ask for it, like, hey, can you come look at this before I push the button?
Good job. Solid.
I have a team that helps me. I did not do this alone. I have a wonderful, we have a wonderful database engineering team over at SendGrid.
Yay team. Good job. I've always said that, I used to be a release manager, and
I'm sorry.
my job, yeah, I know, it's terrible. And my job was to automate myself out of a job. You're never done. You're never done.
You just want to solve harder problems.
Well, yeah, you want it. It's the outliers that are the interesting ones. You don't want to work on the daily grind. You want like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's gnarly. Oh, yeah. So, well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So were there any final points that you wanted to make before we move into Q&A?
No, that's pretty much covered it. Yeah, use Twilio if you're looking for. I mean, if truly actually please don't deploy your own email servers. Don't try to send SMS through gateways. Trust me, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I do enjoy. It seems like once a month there's one tweet from you that's like, "Hey, company, this thing is happening. You're having some email issues. I think we could help with that."
That's more because I actually break a lot of technology. If you just search for the hashtag Botros, you'd be a little terrified.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I wonder I'm still allowed to work in tech. I break so much stuff. You have no idea.
Well, there's a saying about that. It's anyway, I can't think of it. But yeah, if you're not breaking it, you're not trying. That's my view on it. Well, thank you, Sylvia. Will you stick around for questions in case there's some on maybe you want to weigh in on? But let's go ahead and move on to that next slide. And yes, go ahead. I'm going to pop it to the join the conversation, but go ahead.
I think it was you can't make an omelet unless you break a few eggs.
Oh yeah, that's so much better. I love omelets. So there was one question that came in and Nathan jumped on it, and it was an awesome question and answer. Nathan, do you want to, for folks that might not have seen that?
Sure. Yep. Yeah, I was kind of partly looking for some clarification, just to make sure I was understanding it. The question was, about are there plans to be able to pass arguments into the execute command tag? That the executable name can have spaces and stuff. So needing to call this execute command a lot of times with a lot of arguments, and so kind of wondering about the best way to pass that along. And kind of the shorter answer was there is a nested arg tag that you can have, and you can specify as many of those as you want to kind of call out the specific arguments. The execute command, for a little bit of context, what that lets you do is just kind of run any arbitrary shell command or external CLI command from inside of your Liquibase update script. And a lot of times that's useful because not everything you need to do to the database is something that goes through SQL. Maybe you want to do a MySQL dump in the middle of something before you do a major another change, another step after that. It could be nice to have a one change sets that's MySQL dump and then drop table after that, because you at least have that. And the execute command lets you kind of call out to that, and it lets you do sort of anything. Any CLI call that you want to go out to, you can do that. And yeah, you can pass along arguments as nested tags inside of there. One additional thing kind of wanted to kind of call out in there as well too is, he was mentioning, needing to call this, a whole bunch of times with maybe kind of similar arguments to that. And one big thing with Liquibase is we've designed it to be very extensible. And the ability to kind of define your own custom change tags is something that's easy to do. It takes a little bit of Java coding skills, so I guess your easy to do depends on your Java skills. But if you have something where you're needing to call execute command with a whole bunch of times, and you feel like you're repeating yourself a lot, it might be a great opportunity for you to make your own custom tag that extends from the execute command tag. Automatically defaults in the executable, automatically defaults in the required arguments, and just kind of exposes some additional ones, just to kind of simplify down what it takes for both to run what you're needing to do, both to make it easier for you to not have to type so much stuff, and also to kind of reduce the chances for people to make mistakes. If you're doing something a bunch of times, it's easy to make mistakes in there, and the custom tags are a great way to do that.
I do it every day. Cool. Thank you so much. Question from Mario. Will I be able to run commands from Hub when I see a change set failed, et cetera? Can I roll it back from Hub or things like that?
Not immediately, shortly, in a while, yes. So right now, when the Hub launches, and so certainly in beta, it's status and monitoring. You can see all the things that you've been doing from command line or Maven or other integrations, and you'll be able to see when things have failed. But you will not yet be able to hit a button and say, roll this change set back. But that is definitely coming. It's pretty high on the list. Basically, every time we interview somebody, they say, ooh, that's neat. And they see that this something failed. Can I roll that one back?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that that is high on the list for people, and it will come, just not right off the bat.
All right, cool. But today, if we have a failed change set, say we're using Jenkins or something like that, and we see there's a failure, you can, in Jenkins, say on failure, run this rollback command. So there is a way to do it today. It's just not within Hub today.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. There is another question, and I didn't know if I understood this, from Daryl. How do you define an empty, quotes, rollback for SQL and YAML? Empty rollback.
Yeah. So I think what he's getting at there is sometimes, when you're trying to do a rollback, Liquibase will just kind of start at the last change sets and run your rollback statements for each of them, kind of going back, either one that you specify Or if you're using XML for a lot of the change types, we can kind of automatically figure out what that rollback command would be. But sometimes it's useful, there's not really anything to roll back. Like maybe, you don't care that it gets undone. Maybe you know that, it's going to get kind of redone differently in kind of an earlier or sort of a later rollback step, or, whatever. Maybe you just don't want to do a rollback, for that particular change. You just
okay.
Go past it. Just kind of basically mark it as, okay, yeah, this thing's been undone. Maybe, like maybe you inserted some data in your change set, and to roll it back, it's just, that the previous one's going to drop the table. So, why try to delete the data? Something like that. And so with XML, you can just have, you have a couple options. One is you can have just an empty rollback tag. And then that's just signifying to Liquibase there's nothing to do here. With YAML, you should be able to do a similar thing where you just have a rollback : key with nothing in there, and Liquibase should also take that as don't do anything for that. If you're having problems with that with YAML, let us know and we can take a look at that. For formatted SQL, rollbacks are specified with a -- rollback tag, and then the statement to put. Not having tried that for a while, you should be able to just say -- rollback with nothing, and it should just, also act like an empty rollback. I could maybe imagine there might be an issue where it's not, it kind of tries to pass that along as a SQL statement, and, an empty SQL statement's not going to work against your database. So it should work. Let us know if it doesn't. As a workaround, if you do have problems with it, you could always just put some sort of a placeholder, select one statement in there that doesn't actually do anything, which is a quick SQL to do. One related thing I was going to mention as well is, in XML and in YAML, you can just have a rollback tag that is just sort of empty. But we do have one change type that's just called empty. So you can just have in angle brackets just empty, or in YAML, you can just kind of use that key of empty as well. So that's a change set that doesn't do anything. It's there as a placeholder, like page is left intentionally blank. So
there you go. There you go. Okay.
The person means for this thing to be empty. It's not, that's why it's there. You might want to add that in there just for readability if you're wanting to create an empty change set, or an empty rollback, but you don't have to.
It's cool. Big fan of the empty tag. I love it.
Yep.
I'm going to try and answer this one. I'm going to do my best. So here's a question. I have tried using / and dot at the start of my changelog paths, but I have trouble. Will 4.0 make this work or not? And I assume we're talking about running Liquibase in the same directory as our changelog. And the way I've done that is I just reference the changelog file name. I don't use a dot. I just say, changelog equals changelog.xml. Have it in my properties file or on the command line. And that seems to work. Do you think I'm reading this right? This question?
Yeah, I think so. And yes, I think that's the answer, that, having a / or a dot at the beginning, it's not needed. Kind of the way to think about it is Liquibase has a set of directories that it's looking for files in, and the paths that you specify are always relative to those directories. And whether you put a / at the beginning or not, it's always going to be relative to one of those locations. In the CLI, your current directory is one of those spots that it looks in. So, it's going to be looking in there, always regardless. In 4.0, part of the work we did around the file lookup stuff is kind of trying to handle and standardize some of these paths. And so we should be better handling, if you put a / or just dot at the beginning, it should find them better. And, it should kind of treat them as if you kind of didn't specify that. So it should work better in 4.0 than it did before. You don't have to specify it in either, 3x or 4.0. It should work either way without it.
Let us know if it doesn't.
That's right.
Reach out. lots of easy ways to find us. Discourse, Discord, Stack Overflow, Twitter, Reddit. Hey, go get a certification at Liquibase University. Blow us up. Let us know. We also like to hear when things work great, but that's a good way to let us know when things are working great. That's valuable too. Any other comments, points the team would like to make?
I wanted to do just a quick shout out to Asha. She's one of the attendees as well. We found each other on LinkedIn, and she's also she says she's going to have her fundamentals cert done within a couple of months. So awesome folks.
Go get it. Welcome. Sylvia, thank you so much. We need to hook you up with some Liquibase swag.
Appreciate it. Thanks. It was fun.
Well, thank you so much, team. I really appreciate it. And I think that's a wrap. Motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. See y'all next time. And when is next time? Oh, look, September 17th, 2020. We'll talk to you folks later. Thank you so much.
Bye, folks.